today. I just want to let you all know that that recording is used to archive this event so that this recording and a Q&A sheet and our slides will be in the Lunch and Learn library on our WWFSP.org website. So if you want to go back and share the presentation with somebody or just refer to something, or for people who couldn't be here today, it's there for posterity. I'll just introduce myself, Marty Solomon, and I am with Crossroads Consulting and also an administrator of the Regional Food System Partnership Grant. I just provide support to a couple of the grant projects, and I've been doing that since the NABC got the grant. I have been specifically providing support for the steering committee of the Western Washington Food System Partnership Steering Committee, and we will be talking about that today. That's one of 4 objectives of the grant, the first one. And then I also have been supporting the Farm to Food Bank project, which is the 3rd objective of the grant. Before that, I have had a long and enjoyable time doing food systems work, mostly focused on Whatcom County, where I live. I live in Bellingham. And so I was involved in farm to school work in Bellingham for 11 years. And also as part of that, wound up being involved in founding the Whatcom Food Network and the Whatcom Food System Committee. And so, yeah, shout out to my Whatcom friends here today. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. I want to pass it to Abbott to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Marty. And I just want to say, Marty does more than just support. She is literally the backbone of so many of the projects, and they would not be possible without her. So I just want to say thank you for making it all possible, because without that strong administrative support, we wouldn't be able to do this good work together. So anyway, hi, everyone. Good morning. It's good to see, good afternoon, a lot of familiar faces here. My name is Abba Kaiser, for those that don't know. I'm out here on Chimicum land on the Olympic Peninsula, and I've been helping to facilitate the steering committee since 2023, taking it over from Poppy Davis, who was the facilitator previously. I'm here on behalf of my production company, Watershed. I've been collaborating with NABC for many years on various projects, and I'm just thrilled that we were able to pull so many of you vital voices together on February 8th to create this report. And we're hoping that this presentation can just be some bite-sized pieces for you to digest a lot of the information that's available to you through that larger document. So I'm going to toss it back to Marty to give us a little more context.
All right, so the way we plan to go through things today is I'll talk a little bit about the steering committee, what it is, and then talk just in a broad way about this February 8th open meeting that we had. Then I'll hand it over to Abba, and she will really dive into what came out of that meeting, the kind of what we did and what the key takeaways are from that. And then it'll come back to me, and I'll just tell you a little bit about how to be involved in future activities and tracking this work. So diving in about the Western Washington Food Systems Partnership and the steering committee, I mentioned, and Emily mentioned, that NABC received a Regional Food Systems Partnership grant, and that was 4 years ago now, just about. And that grant had 4 objectives in it, and the steering committee, forming a steering committee, was one of those objectives. You could go to the next slide. The steering committee members currently are listed here, and there are 19 of them. And as you can see with a quick scan, we've tried to cover this this region, the Western Washington region, right now there's 12 counties that are kind of officially included in that. And we've tried to get broad representation across those counties and also some statewide organizations and just key groups that are really working on food systems development. Now, the focus of the NABC grant, why don't you go to the next one? Next slide, thanks. Oh, and you can see the map there of the 12 counties. So I'm just going to review the mission of the steering committee because it'll give you an idea of where the focus is on this for this group. And I was going to say that Clallam and Jefferson counties are also involved and will probably are going to become increasingly involved, I expect, over time because there's good work going on there. Okay, so as far as the focus of the steering committee's work and or the mission is to increase value-added food production and to advance a regional strategy for a kind of unified vision of agricultural development. And so here's the crux of it here is supporting new infrastructure projects for value-added food processing and distribution. So what I'm trying to highlight here is we're talking about the infrastructure of the food system. And that includes hard and soft infrastructure that that I think that infrastructure focus is what makes the Western Washington Food System Partnership unique. There's more to this vision, a couple of more on the next slide. Technical assistance is a big part of what NABC provides and a heavy focus on the Western Washington Food System Partnership. And finally, supporting business expansion and access to capital. So there's a part here about just helping food system organizations, new startup businesses, access, funding, technical support, and other resources that they need to build their business. Next one. Now, these are the stated goals of the WWFSP steering committee. And I really want to highlight these because they all were manifested in this February 8th open meeting that we had. And those are mapping existing and proposed agriculture infrastructure, identifying gaps and creating solutions to fill those gaps, and avoiding or otherwise minimizing competition among parties without hampering the ability to implement individual projects. So a heavy emphasis on collaboration, bringing people together, doing this mapping and gaps identification and brainstorming together, finding out what each other are already doing and then how we can all work together. That's the focus. The steering committee, this open steering committee meeting again happened on February 8th. Now, we narrowed it down to 3 main topics that have been identified through lots of meetings you all probably have been in as top priorities in our food system, areas that need attention, and areas that Northwest Agriculture Business Center has really been working on pretty intensively for a while now. And that is meats, grains, and food hubs. So as we go through, as Abba goes through the results of this open steering committee meeting, it's going to be grouped. The results are grouped under these 3 topics because that's how the whole day was structured. The next slide. Of course, we didn't do this alone. There were a lot of organizations involved in making this one-day event a success, and many presenters from these, who represented these organizations spoke at the event. We want to just acknowledge their contribution to this and express our gratitude. We are going to be well, the event took place, but we did not want it to be just an event. I know you all have probably had the experience of having a great meeting, going to a great conference, and then it's over. And you're like, I learned so much. And then it dwindles over time, right? And we wanted to try to capture the all of the interest and interesting things that came out of the day and give it legs into the future, give you something to refer back to. So we did do, as Emily mentioned at the beginning, we took a lot of notes, we recorded, and we put together a report. The report is available on the WWFSP.org website, and there's a button that looks just like that, this box on the left, that you click on read the report, and there it is, like magic. So we are going to do an overview of the information that's in that report today, but I encourage you all to read the report and share the report with others. The next slide. So why should you read the report? Well, the main thing is that we want to save time. Like I said, you all are busy, you're in a lot of meetings. So often, I don't know about you, but I have the experience of deja vu. Like, oh my gosh, we've had this conversation a bunch of times before about identifying gaps and how do we fill those gaps and who's doing what. And so what we're trying to do is to provide that information in one easy package. It's a snapshot. It's a point in time snapshot of what's going on in 3 areas: meat, grains, and food hubs. But for people who want that and need that, it should be a valuable resource. I think it is. And it should help us stop having, it should help to be a jumping off point for you by clarifying where the infrastructure gaps are, understanding what's needed to move projects forward. There's names of organizations sprinkled throughout the report so you can identify potential partners. And also, if you are somebody who works at a state or regional level on policy and advocacy, it can help you there by identifying, informing what is needed to help bolster our food system and accomplish the kinds of projects that are needed. So those are some reasons to read the report. And now I hand it over to Abba to dig in.
Thanks, Marty. And I'm gonna see if I can move my meeting chat here. I'm having some keynote issues. Let me see if I can move this away. Okay, that's helpful. All right. One more, come on. All right. Let me see if I can read it off this tiny screen next to me. Okay, technical difficulties. So yes, thank you, Marty, for setting the stage and just kind of queuing up the context for this report. We joked at the meeting that we need a whole glossary to understand what all the acronyms mean and who has which grants and how to navigate through all of that. So I just think it's grounding to know where this work has come from. And as Marty mentioned throughout the day, participants were mapping food system infrastructure that was related to those 3 areas: grains, meat, and food hubs. Along with other projects, we kind of left an other category as well, identifying various stages of development and then targeted resources that are needed to help remove barriers or move projects forward. And some key takeaways, which will be no surprise to a lot of the food systems professionals on the call, were communication and coordination across the value chain. Creating spaces for folks to connect, to share resources is invaluable. And I think that having worked for several organizations in this sector, I know how valuable our time and resources are. And so trying to kind of double down on events like this to help create resources that we can all share is super helpful. What was also noted throughout the day is the impact of existing public-private partnerships and how important those are between producers and processors, technical assistance organizations like NABC and Business Impact Northwest. But what was also noted are significant challenges in terms of funding, opportunities, and the role that policy and advocacy plays in ensuring that those opportunities remain as assets for our community to access. Obviously, workforce development needs, training. We'll get into that in different sectors in a moment. But recruitment, wage parity, all of that. Very simple issues to solve, y'all. We're just talking about very simple things that someone could wave a magic wand and figure out tomorrow. Equipment scalability and appropriate equipment sizes for different scales of operation, waste disposal challenges, and a real need for deep market analysis. And we'll get into that in just a moment here. We're going to look at 3 different areas, as we mentioned, and the first one is meat. Again, you can read all of this information in the report, but we just wanted to kind of give you some bite-sized pieces to take away if you didn't have time to read the whole document. We also included a key takeaway section in the first 4 pages of the report. So if you only want to read 4 pages, that's where to go. But what was noted through the charrettes and through the activities that we hosted around meat was the helpfulness of the USDA loans and the custom meat sales in general to bolster the meat economy. Another issue that came to light was that waste management is a super complicated issue when it comes to the meat industry, which benefits from a coordinated approach. And there are organizations already working on that, such as Awful Awful, Cedar Grove, and the WSU on-farm composting researchers. However, infrastructure investments are needed to help improve custom sales. Advocacy is needed for securing government funding in the absence of the essential WSDA funding that was available throughout the peak pandemic years. And in general, that communication and coordination, such as the Northwest Meat Processors Association and the WA Meetup, are essential for navigating these challenges. A topic that's near and dear to my heart as a former conference organizer for the Cascadia Grains Initiative. The local grain economy is top of mind, and being in this room with folks on February 8th, we were able to identify these areas as being kind of key points to look at and to bring support to. So scale appropriate infrastructure, as I mentioned, especially for smaller to mid-scale farmers, is essential. And grain storage being a huge issue as well that needs to be addressed. Policy at state and local levels is needed, specifically that's designed for these smaller to mid-scale farmers, because there's a lot of advocacy with the Grain Commission in that at a larger scale. There's an opportunity for the Transition to Organic Partnership Program that could benefit grain growers by adjusting the parameters of, I believe it was their legal lot requirements. I might be mistaken on that, but you can check my math there. But I think someone mentioned that there was a huge opportunity with TOP to include more grain growers in some of their funding programs that are currently, I think, ineligible because of the amount of land that you have to have. I'm not totally sure on that one. We also know that grain production is a very specialized skill set. You can see one of the maestros here, Dave Fenn of the Southwest Washington Grain Growers Co-op, being one of the people who has a lot of institutional knowledge to share, and that we need to really cherish them and make sure that their information and their mentorship is getting passed on to a new generation of grain farmers. There's much less information available about how to grow grain than there is to do other kinds of farming systems. So again, we're seeing collaboration, partnerships, and models like the Southwest Washington Grain Growers Project. I really encourage you to take a look at their work if you haven't already, as a great success story that's only getting better. And then one other crucial piece of information that I think is going to be really helpful for moving a local grain economy forward is that was mentioned is a comprehensive market analysis, both local and international, to understand how futures markets and local markets are really creating this sort of dance that the grain economy is beholden to, and how that plays into the saturation or lack thereof of local grain markets. Food hubs. Emily, I feel like you should take this slide because you've been the closest one to this work through NABC, but I won't put you on the spot because you haven't seen this slide. But again, financial support, We Feed WA, WSDA grants. Again, we need a glossary, but the VAPG and the LFPP grants are crucial for success for food hubs, and that tying in with that regulatory advocacy for supportive policies for food hubs is greatly needed. Also reframing the narrative so that food hubs are acknowledged as a vital piece of food security is really important. Business technical assistance is needed across food hubs, so bookkeeping, invoicing, EBT access. There's a software called Local Food Marketplace that many of you are familiar with, and creating grant writing access. All of those business technical or soft infrastructure, as we call it, skills are incredibly important. Accessing for funding for labor-related expenses and access to angel investors, just linking food hubs in with greater and broader networks of funding support. And then again, the soft infrastructure and hard infrastructure like coolers and freezers and things like that. Investing in that infrastructure is essential, creating common communication systems and workforce development initiatives as well. And then the last thing on this list is to establish shared food hub standards and food safety protocols that can help increase that communication across different food hubs and food hub networks. Did I miss anything there, Emily? Do you want to add anything? Okay. So in conclusion, again, this is, just a snapshot, and it's probably information that as professionals and as folks involved in this work, you already know, but we thought it was helpful to have it all in one place. So these just key messages really emerged from the day and from the report, that collaboration and innovation is really essential, and you being here today and being part of this presentation is also part of that. So thank you for taking time to share the hour with us. Continuing to advocate for policy changes to meet the needs of producers and processors, and securing those funding opportunities at the state level and national level is essential. And then supporting initiatives that are aimed at addressing those workforce challenges, the infrastructure and organizational development needs is really important. So rallying behind and building coalitions to help move all of those things forward is really important. And so, just good feels for this report. And this last sentence is really just the key. When I boiled all of this down into Chat GPT, I said, "Here's the whole report. What's the one-liner that comes out of this whole thing?" And this was it. So, working together to create a more resilient, sustainable, and equitable food system by working together. So. That's the end of my piece, and I'm going to pass it over back to Marty, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Thanks, Abba. That was a great overview. Okay, so I'm just going to reiterate and one thing, which is that if you weren't here at the beginning, you can find this report. It's not that long. It's kind of dense, but as Abba said, there's four front pages that you can get basically an overview of the whole thing. WWFSP.org is where to go. And I want to really encourage you to share this report with others who you think might be interested. Again, when you are going to meetings, perhaps this is a document you could take with you and just say, okay, here's what they found in this meeting that had all these people in it who know their stuff around what's going on in our Western Washington food system. Can we just start from here and move forward? instead of needing to rehash anything. So share it and use it. And then, and yeah, make it worth having done it. Okay. Ooh. And so where you can go to get to that is this is our WWFSP homepage. There's that button on the right, read the report. You can just click on that. And then you can just keep on scrolling. Woo, she did it. Okay. And then at the very bottom, this is where it says join our newsletter, and you can just plop your email in there and send that off, and you'll be on a mailing list to find out about other opportunities and you'll get the NABC e-news. You'll be on the list. We will not spam you, and we won't share it with others, but you'll get information about other opportunities for workshops, learning opportunities, lunch and learns, and future open meetings. Then, was there anything else on that one that I meant to say? Abba, one back. That was it. Oh, well, just stay tuned for the fall. So this is our last lunch and learn of this year. We had a whole series going, and this is the last one before the summer. We're going to take July and August off of doing lunch and learns and come back in September. And our intention there is to focus on infrastructure projects around the region. And so stay tuned for that series notice. And if you have an infrastructure project that you would really like to have a lunch and learn focused on, let us know. And the way you can do that is by I can put my email in the chat right now. And so just, yeah, let me know. It's marty@agbizcenter.org. And or if you know of another infrastructure project that you would like us to know about and highlight, tell us that too, even if you're not directly involved. Okay.
Awesome. We just want to take a moment again to thank the partners who were a part of pulling off that event in February, and everyone who presented and shared resources. Again, this is not a comprehensive document, obviously. It was a sort of a first pancake in a way for this kind of a thing. And we were just grateful to everybody who showed up and made it a part of their lives, because it really made the whole thing so much more robust and more reflective and accurate in terms of a snapshot of the food systems needs in those areas. So a big thank you again to all of our partners. And yeah, just a big thank you for being here also. It's nice to see so many familiar faces. My email's there as well if you want to connect with me offline about this. And again, we just encourage you to share the report and make it go as far as possible, because I know we are all working towards the same vision, and I just, yeah, appreciate you all for being on the same team. So we'll take questions if anyone has them, and feel free to turn your cameras on and just join us in the room if you're able.
You can put your questions in the chat, or you could use your little raise hand, and we'll call on you. And yeah, so anything you want to ask about the WWFSP steering committee or this event that we talked about, or the report. Maybe we just covered it all.
I would just encourage people to read the report, because it is much more robust than you could go through in this presentation. And so I think it's really important. And it's very nicely organized and laid out and pretty. So it's not super dull and hard to read. Thank you, Abba. I assume that was you. I appreciate that kind of report.
Thanks, Misha. Yeah, Abba did a beautiful job with the layout of the whole thing and pulling it together. it's pretty user-friendly.
Thanks, Misha. Yeah, and I guess just to give everyone a sense in the report, there's a lot more information. We have 3 different appendices. And I really think Appendix C is pretty interesting, where we sort of asked everyone in the room to name issues and opportunities, sort of like, here's what we know about issues and opportunities in Western Washington right now. And the list is pretty distilled down, which I feel like is pretty, it's a challenge to get it all in one place, but just to let you know, there's plenty more plenty more content to dig into, as Misha mentioned. And thank you for the compliment, Misha. I really appreciate it.
Anybody want to ask anything or comment? Perhaps you were there that day and you'd like to share something about your experience.
I'll get it started. So I remember we did a little exercise that was a mapping exercise of ongoing infrastructure projects, and I wanted to just see if you could tell us a little bit more about that. I was there for that, but just maybe how it was visualized in the report, and if you have any like key takeaways from that specific exercise. I thought that was really interesting and helpful.
From the sticky note exercise?
Yeah, exactly. That was sort of the ongoing infrastructure project mapping.
Great. Yeah. So initially, when people got into the room, we asked them to put up sticky notes according to infrastructure projects that they were aware of in meat, grains, and food hubs in different planning phases. So we had a different color for the idea or pre-planning phase, the in production phase, and the in operation phase. This is Appendix A in the report. Again, this is not comprehensive, but it is a good opportunity to see sort of where there might be some similar projects that are planned and in progress. And so, yeah, you can see that on pages 6 through 10 of the report. Pre-production, in production, and in operation infrastructure projects in our area.
I have a related question, if I can tag on to that. I'm curious about the possibility of making something like that a digital evergreen evolving resource, because there were a lot of folks, there was a ton of people at that meeting, but there were folks who weren't there and may know about projects that didn't get mentioned. And so, or to track the progress of these projects and move them like on a Kanban board to where they are in development, I think that could be really useful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the things we've been discussing is how to maintain and actually make a resource like that useful and usable, and how much investment it takes. You know, you can see the success with Sustainable Connections and how much they have to maintain the resources of the farm finder. But something similar to that, where there's already sort of infrastructure and resources set up to maintain and keep that relevant. Because I know the idea behind the report was intentional, because we were like, we know that this is what we have the resources to do, is to create this sort of stagnant document. But I think there's so much potential to create a living document with organizations that have experience with that kind of infrastructure online.
Well,
I don't know.
even something, I mean, yes, like obviously the Washington Food and Farm Finder could be an interesting, but I'm thinking of something even like lower tech where, and I forget the app, but sometimes during these meetings, people will bring up those whiteboards with the sticky notes and anyone can go in and add or move things around. It could be something just like that.
Yeah, I love that idea, Misha. We should definitely keep talking about how to keep this a living document and just reflective and accurate. I think at this point, I don't know, Mike, do you want to chime in from NABC's perspective? Not to put you on the spot, but it's good to see you.
No, I'm just glad I had my camera on and didn't sneak off to get another Pop-Tart or something, and I'd come back to the room to hear Mike. I couldn't agree more with the idea that we need to create that living document. I think that's always been the intention with this initiative. I love the idea that it could be simplified, and I mean, really, I think just to support what Abba said, you know, this grant, the Regional Food Systems Partnership Grant, funded a lot of these activities. And it's been mentioned, we're wrapping that up. We're in the process currently of kind of looking at the W's and the L's and, you know, the ROIs and all those other sort of future planning acronyms that which initiatives NABC will continue to focus on as we move these activities more under the NABC umbrella, and that's one of them. You know, as Abba said, I think we continue to look for partnership with people that already have the expertise in digital infrastructure to house something like that. But that it's a point very well taken to simplify. And you know, I do think that we are the next 3 to 6 months will be pretty exciting. I'm blessed with the opportunity to move between a lot of these projects throughout Western Washington. And I know that there's a lot of shiny things that are going to go up in the next 90 to 120 days. So that too would be, you know, to have a site where people can go to just check in on the progress of these as well. So yeah, a point well taken, and I think one that the team behind the curtain continues to work on. And again, once more, just love the idea of simplifying that to a point where it's, you know, we could do something instead of nothing.
I jump in here. I just want to say it's my great dream that the Washington Food and Farm Finder become this resource infrastructure. We have a system in place where we've set up separate maps, and we have like the new wholesale finder, for instance, which has different filters, and just the infrastructure is in place. And if we are able to continue investing in the one same resource, there's a lot more potential for people to be using the same resource over and over. That said, being someone who helps kind of build it, I definitely know how much work it takes, and how much work it's going to take to get there to where we have like a really robust and usable. And I do think the fact that people have to update their own profiles is the thing that keeps it living, is the thing that keeps it accurate, because having one person in charge of keeping that information accurate is what has like really doomed so many of these similar projects in the past. And all that being said, in the leading up to the a lot of the work that we did on the Food and Farm Finder, we use a lot of spreadsheets and shared spreadsheets, crowdsourced spreadsheets. So certainly, Misha, Jamboard's one way to do it too, but I really love the idea of maybe just some sort of shared spreadsheet. For instance, there's a co-packer list that Business Impact Northwest did with ODU, I think, and maybe someone else, but it's like stuck in time, and now ODU has like a online page or whatever. We created a BIPOC farm and food business list that was meant to be kind of our jumping off point for getting folks listed on the Washington Food and Farm Finder. But just that spreadsheet alone is something that we use and people change and update and add to and everything. And we've been using for years now as one of the most kind of comprehensive lists that we have. And so I feel like having something just as simple as that all of us are using and putting our resources into, and making sure that it's accessible to everyone to add and edit and change and everything like that. Because yeah, I definitely think there's some things we could add to the list already. And so I'd love to just have that resource available. I've had like 6 people talk about co-packers in the last like month, and I, you know, very struggled. And then all the certifications, Misha and I've been going back and forth about different kinds of value-added processing certifications. And I just really love to have everybody think and put all of their mind into like one specific place where we can kind of all go. That's my dream.
Love that dream. Thank you. And I see, is this you, Emily, admin lunch and learn?
I should have changed my name before we started. Sorry. I just realized that. Yes, I was saying we do actually for our WWFSP website already for some of our resources that are sort of, we want to be evergreen and updated. We do just a lot. It's super simple. It's low tech, not like the prettiest option in the world, but we just keep a live Google Doc so that if Marty has an updated resource, she can just go back there, update it, and then the website automatically updates because it's just an embedded doc. So something as simple as that, I feel like could be at least a good jumping off point. I love that idea.
Yeah, that's great. And maybe we can link up with Mariah and figure out how to get resources talking to each other well. Yeah, very fun. I'm going to also just mention another format. We have on the WWFSP.org website a resource library. It's the last tab on the right. And the Lunch and Learn library is under that same tab. But if you just click on Resources Library, the top entry is Food System Resources Library. And it was done in the program that I don't know how to say, DIIGO, I think. DIGO, maybe. And that was built in order to be something people can interact with. So you can go to that library. There's a whole bunch of annotated food system articles and on lots of topics. And then if you click on any of these topics, there's a place where you can sign up and sign in, and you can add to the list. I'm not going to pretend to be able to coach you through that easily myself because I'm just not very technically savvy, but I know it can be done. And that helps build the library of resources, and they're all kind of mapped nicely by topic. So I encourage you to take a look at that and update it if you can figure out how to use Digo. I saw that there was a comment from Rachel about Cascadian Seafair being listed and wanting to know more about Cascadian Seafair. And I think, Emily, are you able to provide more information? Like just if Rachel put an email in the.
Yeah, I will. If you put your email in there, Rachel, I'd love to reach out. I want to reach out anyway. I do a little bit of work and living in Pacific County. My mom lives there, so I'm there all the time, and I would love to see what you're up to anyway, Rachel. So yeah, if you put your email in, I can introduce you. Just for a quick 10-second summary, they were a Project Accelerator awardee, which is another kind of arm of our committee here. Is we do Project Accelerator awards where we sort of offer technical assistance to folks whose projects match up, and so they were an awardee of that. So it's very early days for that project, which is probably why you couldn't find anything. But if you awesome, I got your email, Rachel. I'll explain a little better and introduce you to the kind of co-pilots of that, because I think they could probably really use some collaborators, and I would love to hear what you're doing and introduce you. So thank you.
I'm wondering if anyone else on the call has other events or resources that they want to share, any other things like this that their organization is investing energy and time into that we should all be aware of, just in the interest, again, of not duplicating efforts and making sure that this is a meaningful space for you to come to. Anybody want to share anything that's coming up, or
Yeah, I don't have the official information yet, but it's coming soon. The next WA meetup quarterly call, I believe, is going to be on the 26th. So if anyone is interested in getting information about that, who is not already getting those, you can sign up for the listserv at I think it's wameetup.org, or you can email me and I'll make sure you get it. I'll drop my email in the chat. I believe we're going to be discussing processing which is, a big topic. I'm not leading that effort, and so I don't have all the details, but that is what I think I heard. Either way, it's going to be really interesting and useful information for folks in the meat world. So looking forward to seeing some of you there. It's virtual.
Do you want to say any more about WA Meetup? Because I know it's been kind of getting
Yeah.
revisited.
Yeah, so WA Meetup is a collaborative effort from WSA Regional Markets Program and WSU Food Systems. And so it kind of launched right before the pandemic, and we had a big summit in Seattle that brought meat producers and meat processors and chefs together. So it's a really good opportunity for those folks who don't necessarily always connect, to learn about each other's needs and operations. And we did a couple of tours at different farms and facilities. And then we've had these, there was a pivot towards COVID response and emergency stuff during the pandemic, but we're easing back out of that. And one of the really cool things that we have is a refrigerated truck and trailer that travels around the state, doing workshops with meat scientists from WSU Extension in Spokane, also some folks from Pullman campus. We have had a few of them around the state recently. We just had one in Puyallup a couple days ago. That was a 2 full day workshop. That was really great. The next one is a 1-day event in Ellensburg next week. And then I think there might be one coming up in Southwest Washington. I don't have the date yet. It's kind of winding down. Just like a lot of government agencies have a fiscal year end at June 30th. So grants and things like probably NABC as well, get kind of finalized. So we're doing those. We're going to have these quarterly calls. And then I believe we are hoping to have another in-person summit this fall. So stay tuned.
Wonderful. Thanks, Misha. Anybody else have anything you want to share or ask? Thank you, Emily, for putting in the listserv sign up link in the chat. And I put in an evaluation link, and that's just a very brief little evaluation about this Lunch and Learn, but you can also go back to any other Lunch and Learns in the Lunch and Learn library and watch the whole recording, or just look through the slides or look at the Q&A. And we love you to fill out evaluations, because that is information that we need for getting more funding to do this more. Right. I'm not seeing more hands up. And so, are we ready to wrap it up? All right.
Going once, going twice. Kelly, did you come off mute for something? I feel like you were going to make an announcement.
No, not so much an announcement. It was more just reading through the document, and I think I got my question answered, but I was exploring how much the WSDA infrastructure grant program has been, a shout out in this report more than once, and how impactful that funding has been on infrastructure development. And I've just been pondering how that's intersecting with this work. I know there's award information on their website, but I'm just curious. I wasn't there, but if there was conversations of how those two efforts are going to be tracked in the future, to track those impacts. So kind of a big question. We don't have to answer that 5 seconds before we wrap up, but those were some of my questions.
Well, we do have Ivy Fox from our grant program. I don't know, Ivy, if you want to come off mute and say anything, but I know that our team has started doing some internal tracking to see what types of projects have been funded and the impact. You there, Ivy?
I am. Sorry, my dogs decided to holler a little bit right then. Yeah, so I think we're in a neat phase right now where we're shifting from moving into this ongoing funding. So these are great questions, and we're kind of trying to understand more the impact and value that we're working on internally. So we're systematizing things and also thinking similarly to how this conversation is going. But nothing is concrete yet. So feedback is still really welcome. We're going to be pausing after this next round of funding is announced till the next biennium. and then being able to open it up a little bit more. So feedback really is open and appreciated, and really intrigued to see how this all plays out. Thanks, Kelly.
Ivy.
And sort of connected to that, you mentioned that we didn't have continual funding for the WSDA meat and poultry assistance program. So during the pandemic, we had specific grant program just for meat and poultry producers. And the last 2 rounds that was like rolled into our local food system infrastructure grant. But this last round, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ivy, we didn't have a set amount that was just for meat. It was just generally included. And I believe that our team is working on what we call a decisions package to request continued funding for that program and potentially to include meat specific grants. We as state employees cannot do advocacy work, but if you are so inclined, maybe make sure that folks that represent you understand how important that resource is to the meat producers and processors in your area.
Exactly right, Misha. Thank you.
Thanks, Misha, and thanks, Ivy. And another thing that happened on February 8th was we invited folks who represent funding organizations to present on local opportunities. And so we do have those slides as well, kind of all in one place if anybody is interested in seeing all the resources that were shared out from Business Impact Northwest, the USDA, and the WSDA on February 8th. So that's not included as part of the report, but it is, I think it was really impactful for a lot of the folks in the room to just hear all at once what kind of money is available right now or what's coming down the pike. So yeah.
And sorry, me again. The Resilient Food System Infrastructure Grant, that is a USDA grant being administered by WSDA, not our program, but another program, is open right now. And you can take a look. We have information on our website. I don't know the short link, but if you Google RFSI WSDA, it should bring you up, or Resilient Food System Infrastructure. It's a different grant program with similar impacts. It's a little bit of a bigger lift, kind of bigger projects. There's a match, it's all kind of the same, very similar to a lot of USDA grants, so different, but a great resource potentially for some of those bigger infrastructure projects.
Awesome, Misha. Thank you. I just posted it in the chat. I think there's a little apply now button there. Awesome. Anything else you want to say, Marty or Emily or Mike or any of our other hosts before we wrap up the call?
I just wanted to thank you all for being here and for the really fun conversation today. And again, stay tuned for more lunch and learns to come in the fall. We'll let you know. Just make sure you're on the mailing list, which you are. If you registered for today, you are. So thank you for that, and have a happy summer, everybody. Take care. And Emily, I think
Thank you.
want to just, I think I can stop recording.